Welcome, wanderers and dreamweavers, to another chapter in our shared storybook. I'm your narrator through these tales of wonder where words paint worlds and imagination knows no bounds. Whether you're settling in with your morning coffee or winding down under starlight, you've found your home for stories that linger long after the screen goes dark. So dim the lights, quiet your thoughts, and let's turn the page together on today's tale. There is a darkness that exists beyond the realm of nightmares, a darkness that watches, waits, hungers. This is not a tale for those who wish to sleep soundly tonight. This is the story of what happened to Daniel Mercer and the thing he brought back from Blackwood Forest. Daniel was a wildlife photographer with a reputation for capturing images of animals no one else could find. His secret wasn't patience or skill, it was that he ventured where others wouldn't. Deep into places marked restricted on maps, places where the trees grew too close together and the sunlight never quite reached the forest floor. It was October when Daniel entered Blackwood Forest, despite the warnings from locals, despite the stories of hikers who entered and returned different, or never returned at all. The locals had a saying, "In Blackwood you're never truly alone." Daniel would learn the terrible truth of those words. On his third day in the forest, Daniel realized he was being followed. Nothing obvious, just subtle signs, branches that moved against the wind, the sensation of eyes on his back, and most disturbing of all, his own footprints in the mud, accompanied by another set that appeared overnight. Prints that resembled human feet, but with too many toes, pressed too deeply into the earth. Daniel set up his final camp near an ancient oak with bark as black as coal. He positioned his camera trap facing the darkness between the trees, the direction from which he felt the watching presence. That night, the temperature dropped suddenly. Daniel's breath formed clouds inside his tent as he huddled in his sleeping bag, listening to something circle his campsite, something large that moved with deliberate slowness. It circled 7 times, always 7. Daniel didn't sleep, couldn't sleep, not with that thing out there. When dawn finally broke, he rushed to check his camera trap with trembling hands. The memory card contained 57 images triggered by movement. The first 56 showed nothing but empty forest. The 57th showed a figure standing directly in front of the camera. The figure stood upright like a man, but was not a man. Its limbs were too long, joints bending in impossible directions. Its skin, if you could call it that, appeared to be made of writhing shadows that never quite settled into a definite shape. But most disturbing was its face, a perfect, featureless void, save for a mouth that stretched impossibly wide across what should have been its head. Daniel deleted the image immediately, but it was too late. He had seen it, and more importantly, it had allowed itself to be seen. He abandoned most of his equipment, taking only essentials as he fled toward the forest's edge. The trees seemed to close in around him, paths that had been clear the day before now tangled and confused. The sun dimmed, though there wasn't a cloud in the sky. What Daniel didn't understand was that Blackwood Forest doesn't release what it claims, and it had claimed him the moment he took that photograph. Night fell with unnatural swiftness. Daniel's flashlight flickered and died despite fresh batteries. In the sudden darkness he heard it again, that slow, deliberate movement, closer now. "Daniel, who's there? Creature, who's there?" Daniel ran blindly through the darkness, branches tearing at his clothes, his face. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs gave out beneath him. When he finally stopped, gasping for breath, he realized he could see light ahead, the edge of the forest. Hope is the cruelest gift to give before the slaughter. Daniel froze. Standing between him and freedom was the figure from the photograph. In the moonlight, it seemed to absorb the darkness around it, becoming a whole in reality itself. "Daniel, please, what do you want from me?" "Creature, what do you want from me?" It took a step toward him, then another. With each step, its form seemed to flicker between solid and shadow. "Daniel, stay away! Creature, stay away!" The creature stopped. Its mouth opened wider than any human mouth could, revealing not teeth, but endless darkness within. What happened next defied comprehension. The creature seemed to fold in on itself, collapsing into a point of absolute darkness that hung in the air for one terrible moment before it shot forward and into Daniel's open, screaming mouth. Daniel Mercer emerged from Blackwood Forest 3 days later. His clothes were torn, his body scratched and bruised, but he was alive. The search party that found him described him as disoriented but otherwise unharmed. Search Party 1, we found him, over here. Search Party 2, Mr. Mercer, can you hear me? You're safe now. Daniel recovered quickly. Too quickly, some might say. He returned to his apartment in the city, resumed his photography work. Friends noticed subtle changes. He spoke less, smiled rarely, and his once vibrant wildlife photos now focused exclusively on people, candid shots of strangers unaware they were being photographed. Always from a distance, always alone. What no one knew was that Daniel Mercer had not left the forest alone. In his darkroom, Daniel developed his newest photographs. Images of a young woman who lived in the apartment across from his. 46 photos of her going about her day, unaware of his lens. The 47th showed something standing behind her, a dark, elongated shape with too many limbs, visible only as a shadow against her kitchen wall. Daniel smiled as he hung the photo to dry, but it wasn't Daniel's smile that stretched his face too wide. Wasn't Daniel who reached up with fingers that bent at impossible angles to caress the image? The thing that wore Daniel Mercer's skin had plans. It had watched humanity for centuries from the shadows of Blackwood Forest. Now it would watch from within their cities, their homes, their lives. Daniel, hello, this is Daniel Mercer, Rebecca. Dan, it's Rebecca from the gallery. Great news. We want to feature your new collection next month. The board loves your new direction. Not Daniel. Wonderful. I've been dying to show everyone what I've seen. Tonight, check your photographs. Look carefully at the shadows in the background. That shape that could be a smudge on the lens or a trick of the light. Look closer. Is that shadow the right shape? Does it match anything in the room? Does it move ever so slightly when you're not focusing directly on it? The gallery opening for Daniel Mercer's new collection, Watchers, drew unprecedented crowds. Art critics praised his revolutionary perspective and disturbing intimacy. Photographs of ordinary people in ordinary moments, each containing that same elongated shadow lurking somewhere in the frame, behind a curtain, beneath a bed, in the corner of a ceiling. Critic. It's metaphorical, of course. Mercer is capturing the anxiety of modern surveillance, the feeling of being constantly observed, if only they knew. The first disappearance occurred 3 weeks after the gallery opening. A woman named Sarah Lynn, the subject of the centerpiece photograph in Mercer's exhibition. The police found no signs of forced entry, no evidence of struggle. Only her phone remained, its screen displaying the last photo she had taken, a selfie in her bathroom mirror, with what appeared to be a tall, distorted figure standing in the shower behind her. By then, thousands had viewed Mercer's exhibition. Thousands had stared into those photographs, unknowingly meeting the gaze of what lurked within them, and in doing so, they had invited it to see them too. The second disappearance came 4 days later. Then a third, a fourth. Always people who had attended the gallery, always with the same lack of evidence, except for one unexplainable photograph found on each victim's phone or camera. Police are investigating a possible connection between the recent string of disappearances and the controversial photography exhibition by Daniel Mercer. Mercer himself could not be reached for comment. What the news didn't report was that investigators who spent too long studying those photographs began to experience phenomena of their own. The sensation of being watched, shadows in peripheral vision, dreams of endless forests where they were pursued by something they couldn't quite see. Detective Michael Reese was assigned to lead the investigation, a 20-year veteran with no patience for supernatural explanations. He obtained a warrant to search Mercer's apartment after the 7th disappearance. The apartment was immaculate, too clean, as if no one had ever truly lived there. In the darkroom, Reese found hundreds of photographs covering the walls. Every subject was marked with a red X, except for those who had not yet disappeared. In the center of the room stood Mercer's camera on a tripod, aimed at the only chair in the apartment. The camera was connected to a timer. Detective Reese made his critical mistake when he looked through the viewfinder. What he saw wasn't the empty chair, but a forest of black trees stretching endlessly, and standing among them, staring back through the lens, was Daniel Mercer, his body elongated, joints bent at impossible angles, mouth stretched in a silent scream as something dark and formless emerged from his gaping jaw. Reese dropped the camera, but it was too late. The connection had been made, the invitation accepted. That night, in his home, Detective Reese felt it watching him, from the corner of his bedroom, from inside his closet, from the darkened bathroom where the mirror reflected nothing even when he stood before it. Reese, we need to destroy them. All the photographs, the camera, everything Mercer touched. Captain, Mike, you need sleep. You're not making sense. It spreads through images, it watches through them, and once it sees you... Captain! The call was about Daniel Mercer. His body had been found in Blackwood Forest, or what remained of it. The coroner's preliminary report suggested he had been dead for months, his corpse unnaturally preserved by some unknown method, hollowed out from the inside. But if Mercer had been dead in the forest, who had been hosting the gallery exhibition? Who had taken those photographs? The photographs were collected as evidence, stored in the precinct's evidence room. That night, 3 officers on duty reported hearing sounds from that room, like paper rustling by itself, like whispers in a voice that almost sounded like Mercer's. By morning, the photographs were gone, the digital backups corrupted. The only remaining images were those that had been published online or in newspapers, seen by thousands, inviting the watcher into countless homes. Detective Reese knew it was coming for him next. He covered every mirror in his house, destroyed his television, smashed his phone. But in this modern world, how does one escape images entirely? That night, as rain lashed against his windows, Reese sat in darkness, a loaded gun in his hand. He had 1 bullet left, saved for himself, if necessary. The power had gone out an hour earlier. A flash of lightning illuminated his living room for a split second, long enough for him to see the elongated figure standing in the corner, its limbs bent at impossible angles, its face a void except for that terrible stretching mouth. Reese, you can't have me. Creature, you can't have me. Reese, what are you? Creature, I am the Watcher. I am what waits in darkness, what watches from the spaces between moments. I have been collecting faces since before your kind built cities, before you captured images in silver and light. The lightning flashed again. The creature stood directly before Reese now, its form flickering between solid and shadow, its mouth opened wider, revealing not teeth but endless darkness within, a void containing what looked like stars, like eyes, like screaming faces. Creature, your world has made this so easy for me. You capture images endlessly. You stare into screens that stare back. Every photograph is a window, detective, and I can step through any window once I've been invited to look in. The creature's form began to unravel, coiling around Reese like living shadow. He screamed as it pressed against his eyes, his mouth seeping into him like black water. No one investigated Detective Reese's disappearance too closely. His colleagues attributed it to the stress of the case. His replacement closed the Mercer file months later, unsolved but inactive. Life returned to normal. People forgot about the strange disappearances, the disturbing photographs. They continued taking selfies, security cameras continued recording, satellite images continued mapping every inch of the world. And in every image, if you look very closely in the background, in the shadows, in the corner of the frame, you might glimpse something watching, something patient, something hungry. It might be watching you right now through this very story. Through the screen you're staring into, through the reflection in your eyes, because once you know about the Watcher in the woods, it knows about you too. It's right behind you now. Until next time, remember that life's too short for boring content. If this video added a spark to your day, Hit that subscribe button and join our growing curiosity club. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I'll meet you right back here for another adventure. Stay legendary.